Доброго дня, шановні колеги. На годиннику 15:00. У нас сьогодні 26 лютого 2024 року, понеділок. Щиро дякую всім, хто знайшов свій час і приєднався безпосередньо на лекцію, незважаючи на те, що сьогодні перший робочий день тижня. Сьогодні ми співпрацюємо з нашими польськими колегами з університету у місті Влоцлавеку, Куявським університетом. Це є давні партнери Центру українсько-європейського співробітництва, який я тут представляю в особі директора. І хочу зазначити, що зібралися ми в скрутний час щодо польсько-українських відносин, але хочу запевнити, що пані Джоанна Скиба підтримувала і підтримує Україну, українські заклади вищої освіти на протязі останніх 6 років. І в 2022 році перші смски, першу підтримку з-за кордону Центр отримав, зокрема, від пані Джоанни, від Куявського університету. Тому надзвичайно приємно відмітити, що ми з вами зараз маємо можливість долучитися до спілкування з польськими колегами. Цей скрутний час. Але переходжу безпосередньо вже до офіційної частини. У нас тривають науково-педагогічні стажування, які тривають з 5 лютого по 17 березня 2024 року на базі Куявського університету. І сьогодні ми зібралися для участі в онлайн-лекції на тему «Гендерна рівність у сфері освіти, розбиваючи скляну стелю». Спікер – магістр Джоанна Скиба, експерт в галузі освіти та електронного навчання для дорослих. Республіка Польща. Joanna, please speak.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for this kind introduction, as we have been cooperating for several years, and also the Zoom internships are part of our cooperation. And I think these have started since the pandemic times, and we still continue this system of communication. And I'm really happy to see the participants today also bearing in mind the topic of women in education and breaking the ice, the glass ceiling. Partly it is a very difficult and vulnerable topic to discuss, but maybe it will be easier for me to refer to many issues because this partly affects me. And I think some of our participants, some of the women participants today, and maybe not only, will want to share some experience or will just think about some situations in which we have to break the glass ceiling, or maybe we are, in some circumstances, we are not, luckily, not forced to do so. I would like to start with the brief introduction of the topic. So what is this glass ceiling for women in education? Then I will give you some scientific background, and at the end of our meeting today, I will sum up with the way forward, with the ways out, how we can create and find solutions to this problem, because it is really a problem. It affects, I think, women globally. So it's not only for women in education, but it refers to those invisible barriers and limitations that prevent women from advancing to higher positions and achieving full equality within the academic institutions. So you may just think of those situations which forced you to and stopped you from advancing into higher positions. So as this is a very pragmatic meeting and a pragmatic lecture, I will just give you situations point by point. So point one is the underrepresentation in leadership roles. What does it mean? Despite women comprising a significant portion of the workforce in education, they are often underrepresented in top leadership positions, such as university presidents, deans, rectors, and department chairs. This disparity suggests a barrier to the advancement to these influential roles. And I have come up with situations like that, I guess, many times myself. Number 2, the pay gap. Women in education, particularly in higher education, often face a pay gap compared to their male counterparts. So even they hold similar positions and possess comparable qualifications and certificates, women typically earn less than men in academia. Point 3, limited access to tenure track positions. Tenure track positions are crucial for career advancement and job security in academia. However, women may encounter challenges in securing these positions due to the biases in hiring and promotion processes, which can perpetuate the glass ceiling effect. Situation 4 is the implicit bias in promotion and tenure. Women may experience implicit bias in promotion and tenure decisions, where their contributions and achievements are undervalued or overlooked compared to male colleagues. This bias can hinder their career progression and perpetuate inequalities within academic institutions. Point 5, the work-life balance challenges. Women in university circumstances often face challenges in balancing their professional responsibilities with family and caregiving obligations. The expectation of long hours, extensive research commitments, and frequent travel can affect women, making it difficult for them to advance in their careers. Point 6, lack of mentorship and networking opportunities. Women may have limited access to mentorship and networking opportunities compared to their male counterparts. And without adequate support and guidance from mentors and professional networks, women may find it more challenging to navigate the complexities of academia and overcome barriers of advancement. Point 7 is the gender stereotypes and discrimination. Gender stereotypes and discrimination can create hostile work environments for women in education, affecting their confidence, job satisfaction, opportunities for advancement. Discriminatory attitudes and behaviors can reinforce the glass ceiling by limiting women's access to resources, recognition, and career development opportunities. And point 8, the final one on my list, is the limited representation in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, which is commonly known as STEM sciences. So these fields within education, where women are often underrepresented, they face additional barriers to career advancement due to the systemic biases and stereotypes that discourage their participation and progression in these male-dominated fields. So addressing these barriers requires concerned efforts to challenge those biases, to promote gender equality initiatives, but I'm going to talk about the solutions later on. I think we may add to the list, but I don't want this to be a discussion on just the situation, but I also would like to give you the general overview on the situation. So the general aspect of the gender quality. So what is this gender quality? Oh, equality, sorry. Gender equality is not, of course, quality is another issue, but this is not a topic for today. it's not only a fundamental human right, it is a necessary foundation for the peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world, which is a very general statement, but it's true. And there has been progress over the last decades, but the world, well, there is some scientific estimate, may achieve the gender equality by the year, and this is a question mark and it's a question to you. Can you suggest a year in which we can achieve the gender equality? You can write it on chat. Well, it has been somehow calculated. When can we globally achieve the gender equality? Any guesses? Any? You can write it. Or just think about it. So this is the year 2030, which is not so bad, which is like 6 years ahead of us. So let's hope for the bright future, like in 6 years, we will achieve the gender equality. Well, this is like maybe it's wishful thinking, maybe not. Women and girls represent half of the world's population, and therefore also half of its current potential. But gender inequality persists everywhere. It stagnates and blocks the social progress. On average, women in the labor market still earn 23% less. I just made a pause on purpose. So 23% less than men globally. And women spend about 3 times as many hours of unpaid domestic work and care as men. Imagine 3 times more. I'm sorry to all men listening today to this, but this is like, you know, this is just a topic of our meeting. Sexual violence and exploitation. This is the unequal division of unpaid care and domestic work, and the discrimination in public situations, in employment situations. All of these create huge barriers. And all of these areas of inequality have been reinforced by the COVID-19 pandemic. And why? Well, there are reports on sexual violence, that women have taken more care at home because of the school and universities closures. And of course, also that it derives from the fact that 70% of all health and social workers globally are women. And this is a stereotype, but this is deeply rooted in culture. So at the current rate, it will take another 300 years to end child marriage. Child marriage, which is a situation common in India. 286 years to close gaps in legal protection and remove the unfair laws. And also 140 years for women to be equally represented in positions of power. So I guess this note on the year 2030, so 6 years from now, for this year to become the year of equality, I guess it has been underestimated. And also 47 years to achieve equal representation in the national parliaments. The only situation where in politics where women's position is stronger are the regional self-governments and local self-governments. So how much progress have been made so far? There are international commitments which advance gender equality, and they have brought about many improvements in some of the areas. like child marriage and female genital mutilation, and they have declined significantly in recent years. And also the women representation in politics is slightly higher. But the promise of a world in which every woman and girl enjoys the full gender equality and where all legal, social, and economic barriers to the empowerment have been removed remains still unfulfilled. In fact, this goal that is probably even more distant than before, since women and girls have been hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic mentioned before. So are there any other gender-related challenges? Yes. Worldwide, nearly half of married women lack decision-making power over their health and rights. 35% of women aged between 15 and 49 years of age have experienced some kind of physical or sexual violence. And 1 in 3 girls aged 15 to 19 have experienced some kind of female genital mutilation in 30 African countries. This type of violence doesn't just harm individual women, it also undermines the overall quality of life and hinders their active involvement in society. Why should gender equality matter to me? Regardless of where you live, gender equality is a fundamental human right. Advancing gender equality is critical to all areas of healthy society, from reducing poverty to promoting the health, education, protection, and well-being of girls and boys. What can we do? If you are a girl, you can stay in school, help empower your female classmates. As we are at academia situations, we can try to empower our colleagues. Fight for our rights to access the health services. And we can address the unconscious biases and implicit associations that form an unintended and often an invisible barrier to equal opportunity. If you are a man or a boy, you can work alongside women and girls to achieve gender equality and embrace healthy, respectful relationships. You can fund education campaigns to curb cultural practices like female genital mutilation and change harmful laws that limit the rights of women and girls and prevent them from achieving the full potential. 1.5 years since, almost 4 years since the World Health Organization declared the COVID-19 a global pandemic, and the toll on the poorest and most vulnerable people remains devastating. The combined impact of conflict, extreme weather events, and COVID-19 have deprived women and girls of even basic needs such as food security. And without urgent action to stem rising poverty, hunger, and inequality, especially in countries affected by that, there are acute forms of crisis and millions continue to suffer. I guess you may think if it's related to academic life, it is, because it is a base of our life, and sometimes we even don't realize the situation and what people go through in some areas, but we have to realize this is a global aspect and we have to face this as true. The global gender gap in food, for example, in food security, has risen dramatically during the pandemic. And with more women and girls going hungry, women's food insecurity levels were 10% higher than men in 2020, compared to only 6% higher a year before. This trend can be reversed. including the supporting women on small scale by small scale producers who typically earn far less than men through increased funding, training, and land right reforms. As we know, like in Poland, for example, now we have been using many European funds in many different European projects, and the issue of the glass ceiling or the inequality has been active in many European projects, and I'm also taking part in some of them, but I guess sometimes it's just talking, and how can we change this? Well, this will be the last part of my presentation, but we always have to think about this. What can we do about this? Talking about the good health and well-being, the disruptions in essential health services due to the COVID-19 are taking a tragic toll on women and girls. In the first year of the pandemic, there were an estimated 1.4 million additional unintended pregnancies in lower and middle income countries. And we need to try to do better than that. Response to the pandemic must include prioritizing sexual and reproductive health services, ensuring they continue to operate safely, and after when the pandemic finished, also we need to try to operate on that area better. In addition, more support is needed to ensure the life-saving personal protection equipment, tests, oxygen, especially vaccines, which should be available in all countries. Also, the quality of education is a very big and important issue. 4 years since the pandemic started, and schools remained partially or fully closed for in 42% of countries globally. I guess at some higher stage in the beginning of the pandemic, I think the number was even higher than 42%. School closures spell lost opportunities for girls and an increased risk of violence, exploitation, and early marriage. Measures focused especially on supporting girls returning to schools, and this has been happening, as we know. This has been fact, including measures focused on women from marginalized communities who were most at risk. What about the gender equality? The pandemic has tested us in many aspects and even reversed progress in expanding women's rights and opportunities. Reports of violence against women and girls, there was shadow of the COVID-19 pandemic. They were increasing in many parts of the world. It has intensified women's workload at home because we stayed at home longer, and forcing many of us to leave the labor force altogether and never return to it. So building forward differently and better should be placing women and girls at the center of all aspects of response and recovery, including the gender-responsive laws, policies, and budgeting at the state level. How about the clean water and sanitation, which seems like an obvious issue, but it's sometimes not really the case. In the year 2018, there were nearly 2 billion people who lived in water-stressed countries, so they did not have full access to clean water. Without safe drinking water, adequate sanitation, and menstrual hygiene facilities, women and girls will find it harder to lead safe and productive and stress-free lives. How about the affordable and clean energy? Increased demand for clean energy and low carbon solutions is driving an unprecedented transformation of the energy sector. But women are being left out on that. Women hold only 32% of renewable energy jobs, so 1/3 of them. So we should expose girls early to the STEM education, provide training and support to women entering the energy field, close the pay gap, and increase women's leadership in the energy sector. As you may say, easier said than done. How about another goal and aspect of decent work and economic growth? The number of employed women declined by 54 million in the year 2020, so then the pandemic started. And as a consequence, 45 million women left the labor market altogether. Women have suffered steeper job losses than men, along with increased unpaid care burdens at home, which have been already mentioned. So how can we stop this? We should guarantee the decent work for all, introduce labor laws and reforms, remove the legal barriers for married women. How about the industry and innovation? Many crises we have had have influenced the achievements that we have reached so far, and also in medical research and innovation. So women's contribution has been profound in those areas, but has been affected. We still need over 1/3 of graduates we only have 1/3 of graduates in science, technology, engineering, and maths, so the STEM subjects, and 1/3 is not really very optimistic. How about the reduced inequalities? Limited progress for women has been eroded by the pandemic. Women facing multiple forms of discrimination, including women and girls with disabilities, migrant women, women discriminated against because of their race and ethnicity, and these are the groups that were especially affected. How about the sustainable cities and communities? Sustainability is a very hot topic when I open a new European project, because I'm also part of the section of Erasmus at our university, and sustainability has always, in the recent 3 or 4 years, has been a very hot topic. So how about the sustainability? Globally, more than 1 billion people live in informal settlements and slums. We can imagine this, over 1 billion people. And women and girls often are overrepresented in those densely populated areas. They suffer from the lack of access to basic water, sanitation, healthcare, and transportation. Sometimes it's very difficult to imagine, but these are facts. How about when we look ahead into those points that I have just mentioned? As it stands today, only one indicator under the global goal for gender equality is close to target. This is the proportion of the seats held in women in local governments. This is the fact which I mentioned at the beginning. So in other areas critical to women empowerment, equality is the time spent on unpaid care and domestic work, decision-making regarding sexual reproductive health. So the world is really still far from the target. This is very, very sad, but we have to face this as it is. Women play a strong role as role models. They inspire the future generation of female leaders in education, whether if it's the level of schools or it's higher education. And according to some researchers, that the research by Hewitt and Osho in 2020, 56% of university student body was comprised of women. This is meant to indicate the students. The higher education workforce, however, reflects a different picture, where 45% of workforce are women, as has been outlined by the American Higher Education Statistics Agency. What is interesting to note is that the representation of women in leadership and management workforce is lower, and it is at the stage of 27%. And it has been highlighted that apart from the challenges of low female representation in leadership in education, there are concerns regarding the female representation regarding ethnicity. So, for example, in British universities, only 0.5% of professors, of female professors, are Black, are Afro-Americans, which is clear that this calls for urgent attention. Women in higher education often face similar challenges to their counterparts in schools. And it has been found and outlined that in higher education working society, the contexts don't often accommodate the needs of female workforce. They do not suit women at all. Women with young families, they struggle to balance their commitments with family life, as you probably know what I mean. In addition, it is often perceived that when women go on maternity leave, their academic career comes to an end, or it takes an indefinite pause. In Poland, for example, you may take the maternity leave for 1 year, which is the time when you are paid. This is like you are paid 80% of your salary. How about Ukraine? How long is the maternity leave? It is 1 year, or you can write it on the chat or answer. But you know what I'm talking about. So this is like, I guess in Poland we are pretty privileged with this 1 year of paid leave. But there are some countries, like I guess in the United States, it's really like 2 months maximum, or maybe 3. So this is we have to think about the options of support and accommodation for the needs of young female academics when they first start their careers and they have to face situations which are common for everyone, but may consist an obstacle. And although the data reflects that the workforce in higher education represents a larger percentage of female staff versus male staff in some contexts, it cannot be ignored that at times it needs to be done to support women in order to succeed in academic and leadership positions in higher education. So flexible working opportunities, not only fulfilling academic teaching roles, but the research and leadership roles as well. They need to be reconsidered to enable women to lead and contribute in a sustainable way to meet the needs of the communities they serve. There has been research on opportunities for mentoring, and it is a wonderful opportunity for women to work with their higher education organizations to help others to grow and develop, as well as to support in the community and in the leadership options. These initiatives need to be taken further. In Poland, there are many options now which are marketable. So you can attend many different courses for which you have to pay, and usually they are very expensive. There are the system of postgraduate education, which is also part of the market at the moment, and there is high demand for that, but usually the courses are very expensive. So to truly shatter this glass ceiling, women have very many roles, but they have also many contributions in higher education, and these all have to be recognized. There are situations that when women play a complementary or equal role to ensure that our students really succeed. Education systems in most countries, especially at the level of schooling, are dominated by women's labor. The assumption that allows women to focus on that they are largely nationals with deep roots in national cultures and strong national identities. And this may reflect a large percentage of women in any country. There is also a significant number of women who are explicitly on transnational level. So they work in international schools. They move backward and forward across borders as a result of roots in several locations, following career trajectories that they take in a number of countries. This may be happening on the transborder areas close. There are, if you look at the European map, there are many areas where you can imagine that people do travel for jobs, and they are not located in one country. I myself do, well, maybe not this year, but in the past years, I did quite a lot traveling on Erasmus teaching, and that was the academic mobility is an adventure in itself, and it's a big advantage in my job, but it also requires a lot of involvement and a lot of energy and a lot of time to arrange. This is not a transborder situation, but this is working on international and global market, which is not very easy, although it is really exciting, if you know what I mean. So this globalization of education, it provides the context of work for women. I think this is what we do right now. We are in the global context now, because I'm happy to be able to see you on Zoom, and we are able to discuss this context of the glass ceiling in education. So this is all self-reflecting, and I guess we all have a lot of self-reflection today, as you may think that many. Oh, okay. I just looked into the chat. You wrote about the maternity leave up to 3 years, but 3 years. This is unpaid, probably, yes. In Poland, yes, it's also the same. It's 3 years unpaid, but to be paid, it's only one year, and this is 80% of the salary. So I guess this is pretty similar. Okay, so referring back, this is we are in the global market, in the global situation, and the self-reflection is an important aspect of success, as we can say, okay, that was about me. And I guess we are all facing this, like the glass ceiling is a fact. How about breaking it? How about, as I'm coming to a conclusion and some stronger points that I want to sum up with and to give you some, maybe not a solution, but maybe an idea of moving forward. So breaking the ice ceiling, which refers to overcoming invisible barriers that prevent women from reaching the higher levels of leadership success. This requires a combination of personal resilience, strategic planning, and social change. What are the steps? I have listed for you, to be specific, 10 steps. Step 1, so develop skills and competences. So continuously invest in your education, your skills and competences which are relevant to your field. This might include pursuing advanced degrees, certification, language learning, and attending workshops and seminars. I guess this is what you exactly are doing now. Point 2, build a strong network. Cultivate relationships with mentors, sponsors, and allies who can provide guidance, support, and opportunities for advancement. So networking within and outside your organization can provide valuable insight and connections. So build this group of people around you. Point 3, assertiveness and self-advocacy. Be assertive in expressing your goals, accomplishments, and ambitions. Learn to negotiate for what you deserve in terms of salary, promotions, and challenging assignments. The confidence is the key here. Sometimes there is quite a difference in attitude and in grading. For a man to be called assertive, it may be seen as an advantage. For a woman, we may not be called assertive, but we may be called rude, for example. But I guess this is a story for another meeting, and it's a topic for a psychologist, not me. Point 4, challenge stereotypes and bias. Advocate for diversity and inclusion initiatives within your organization. Challenge stereotypes and bias by highlighting the value of diverse perspectives. Point 5, seek leadership opportunities. Volunteer for leadership roles on projects that showcase your skills and leadership potential. This can help you gain visibility in your area. Point 6, create a personal brand. Develop a strong personal brand that highlights your unique strengths, values, and contributions. This can help you distinguish you from the others and position you as the leader in your field. Point 7, continuously learn and adapt. Stay informed about industry trends, best practices, and emerging technologies. Adapt to changes in your field by continuously learning and expanding your skill set. Point 8, find allies and support systems. Surround yourself with supportive colleagues, friends, and family members who believe in your potential and can provide you encouragement. Point 8, be persistent and resilient. Breaking the glass ceiling often requires resilience and perseverance in the face of obstacles and setbacks. Stay focused on your goals and remain determined. And the final one, number 10, advocate for systemic change. Work to address systemic barriers to advancement, such as unequal pay, lack of representation in leadership roles, and discrimination practices. Advocate for policies and initiatives that promote equality and fairness in the workplace. Please remember that breaking the glass ceiling is not solely an individual effort. It requires collective action to create a more inclusive and equitable society and workplace. And with this positive tone, I would like to thank you for listening today and attending the Zoom meeting. Are there any questions? Or maybe any points you want to share? If not,
if you don't mind, I have one question for you.
Yes.
My name is Andrei. I'm from Ukraine, Lviv State Institute of University of Physical Culture. Now we live in such different circumstances in Ukraine.
Yes.
I think you know it. And if you're talking about equality, what's your point about the situation when here in Ukraine, it doesn't matter. I think in Europe, you would have the same situation, but I wish you never would have the same. Women's completely allow and free leave our country and go abroad wherever they want. USA, Poland,
Yes.
German. They can take their children and they will definitely have support from governments of foreign countries.
Yes.
At the same time, men's not allowed to go. They should stay, they should fight, they should die. The first point. I have three questions to not repeat. The second, due to statistics, the very important reason to end marriages is when it's due to women's point of view, when men earning less money than women's. It's a big problem. And how can men save their marriages, their family, if they not will have more salary, more profit than their wives? For example, if they took more duties about family, about children, about all this work, is from one hand, women want the equality, from other hand, they want their men's will more successful than they are. You know, and my third and last point is that due to statistic, more than 90% of gross domestic product in world are made by men's. That's it's obvious why men's earning more money. Thank you for your answers.
Yeah, I will try to maybe not really answer, but just make my personal comment on that, because they are very open issues. The first one is referring to the war situation, of which I'm terribly, terribly sorry, and you know that I strongly support you. But this is just like, this is beyond our control. And from my point of view, I would like, because we had this very active cooperation as we started cooperating with Ukrainian universities in 2018. And it was exactly, I think, 2019 was the first year when a group of students arrived from one university. And I thought this is going to be the pattern, that we're going to have students coming to Влоцлавеку, to our university. We had a group of about 15, 20 people. And then the pandemic stopped everything. So it put everything to a standstill. These are unusual circumstances. So first the pandemic, and then the situation of war. So I know this is not for, I'm not in position to make any sensible comment on that. This is like, you know, hard to imagine for us, but the war is so close to us, and we know, as we watch the news every day, and we know what is happening. So we cannot change much. I think we have just to accept this. I know there are some very unusual situations when men can leave Ukraine and they can go abroad, but this is it's not a rule. Like, you have to be over like 65, or if I'm correct, to be able to leave, I guess so. So this is really, it's not a regular pattern to follow, and I cannot make a comment on that. About the men earning less than women, and women who want to have very successful husbands. Yes, I think this is a global problem. Yeah, we want to have everything. We want to have money. We want to have devoted partners. But I guess it works both ways. As I watch many marriages of my friends, when, for example, they are successful financially, but first that was the man's role to earn, and then it may be the woman's role to earn more. I guess it's a matter of trust and partnership. So this is like, there is no definite model on that. This is a matter of trust. This is a matter of love and devotion, if you are able to accept this or not. Because I think it's not really, there is no one way that suits everyone. And I think people live in very different circumstances. And what you mentioned at the end was that the 90% of the global domestic product is made by men. This is true, but we have been through the process of women gaining more rights, the right to work, to live successfully, and to gain access to leadership roles, which I have been discussing. And I guess we want more than that. We want to get more money. For example, I've been working at university for 23 years now, and I can tell you openly, all of my colleagues doing the same job that I do earn more than I do. And I do protest on that, because I'm a fighter. This is my role, like, because I'm active, because I am the director of international office, and I talk to many people. But people really hate me for this. But I cannot agree that a man who is in the same rank as me gets more money than I do. This is unfair. And women, all women listening to me today, we have to fight for those rights. This is not easy. This may be not popular, but we have to fight for that. Any other comment?
Нікого, чи є ще питання?
All right. If not, I would like to thank you for today. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Щиро дякуємо, пані Джоанно, щиро дякуємо всім учасникам. Будь ласка, чекайте на своїх поштових адресах, нових поштах, сертифікати та збірники тез, які будуть вам вчасно відправлені. Щиро дякуємо, усім гарного тижня. До побачення. Бай-бай.
Thank you, goodbye.
До побачення, пан Михайло. Дуже дякую за гарну конференцію.
Дякую.
Дякую, до побачення.
Ну, все добре.
Побачення.
До побачення.